Hello, this is Jake Rawls, and in Teaching Strategies, a guide to effective instruction, on page 177 of chapter 7, it says that as a beginning teacher, you'll be confronted with many challenges in the classroom, including assessment. Assessment is cited as one of the most difficult challenges and obstacles that any teacher, but specifically a young beginning teacher, has to face in the classroom. And this has much to do with the fact that determining and judging a student's worth based on their work and productivity is a tough thing to do, and you never want to put down a student who is actually giving you good effort. But with that being said, it's still important for us to understand the grading and the grading process and the different aspects of those things. So to start us out, how will we keep students informed of their progress during the grading term? I think that it's vitally important for students to get good, encouraging feedback from their teachers throughout the term or semester, year, however long they are with you. And on page 187, it makes point that this feedback that the student gets from you as the teacher needs to be useful and not vague. Terms such as good effort, nice work, or revision, and that's all that you give to them, is very vague, and it might not help them out in the long run. They need a little bit more practical steps that they can do to improve themselves and to do better in the future. Now, also with this feedback, I believe that it's important that it stays between the student, the teacher, and even the parent or guardian in certain situations. You should never try to shame a student in front of the classroom when they've done poorly on an assignment. And there may be a situation or a circumstance down the road where a student does something that's off the charts good, does something well, and you want to make mention of that in front of the class to try to inspire everybody else. And maybe there are scenarios where that is acceptable, but you should never try to put down a student in front of their peers, because that may cause them to shut down and not give you as much effort in the future. Moving forward, how will achievement be monitored and recorded during the grading period? One good idea, which is made mention of in the textbook, in chapter 7 as well, is the idea of, as the semester term goes on, that the assignments that take place later in the semester you could potentially as a teacher weight them more than the assignments that took place near the beginning of the semester. Now what this does, it gives the student a chance to grow and progress, and maybe with some of the assignments they didn't do as well as they're new to your class during the beginning of the term, maybe that won't count against them as much. And as they have made improvements and grown as a student, as they've been in your classroom, the work that they do that reflects that progression they've made is also the grade that they will have for your class. And the mistakes that they made at the beginning won't count against them as much as they otherwise could. Now, how will effort and knowledge be weighted in your grading? I think that effort and knowledge are vitally important when it comes to a student and their work and productivity. And I personally favor seeing effort from students and from anybody in whatever place in life that they're in, that if they're giving effort and giving the very best that they can give you, that's what's most important. Now, as a teacher, also understanding the grasp that a student has of the concepts you've been teaching is also important as well. So one potential idea that you could have, so that you're being fair and you're also rewarding students for their effort, is to potentially have a grade, an assignment grade, to where if they turn it in, that's as if they're getting an automatic 100, and also grade the content, the responses of their work, and give a grade depending on how good or bad that they do with that. And in that way, if they're still struggling with the material that you are teaching with them, it won't hurt their grades so badly. They will still get a decent grade due to the fact that they're giving effort. But the end goal is that if they're giving you that type of effort, that they will soon get the results they need in the near future. Now, when it comes to how does good or bad behavior affect grading, I would personally say that it should not affect grading. Because if you do let a student's behavior, whether it's good or bad, start to influence the way you grade their productivity, the work that they've turned into you, I think that opens the door wide open for you to maybe unintentionally start to show partiality and favoritism to your students, which is not fair at all and something that we should not try, a trait we should try not to have as teachers. Uh, if there's a student who has given you problems weeks ago, months ago, and they turn in work that's just as good and has the same answers as another student who has not been causing problems, those two students should still have their assignments graded the same way. You should not let the past things that that student has done get to you and affect their grading, because that's just not fair to them. If they've turned in their work, done what they're supposed to, they should get the grade that they deserve to get. Now also, on the other hand, if you have a student who normally behaves very well, I think that you still have to be fair and honest and grade them the way that they deserve to get graded. Now, hopefully, if they're behaving well and they give you the correct type of effort, hopefully we hope that their grade will reflect that and that won't become an issue. But I don't think that you should let behavior affect your grading, because that creates the potential for favoritism to happen. Now, when it comes to a different question of how can you structure classroom questions to stimulate the development of students' thinking and skills, this type of question is addressed in the textbook on page 293, which is in Chapter 10. And in Chapter 10, it says this: there are many examples of how teachers and students can use problem solving in the real world. For instance, a class might observe problems in the immediate school environment, such as parking shortages, long lunch lines, crowded locker rooms, noise, and investigate them with the goal of creating an alternative situations. Now, I think that what this is getting at is creating questions and problems that relate to the students where they are at in their lives. With this example being things that relate to the school building that they are in and that they go to every day. And this relates to me because whenever I was in high school in my junior year, there was a lot of renovations and improvements that were going on with the school, and there was a strong feeling from the students and the teachers alike. It was a unified feeling that the improvements and renovations that were happening at our school weren't really the best things that we thought could be happening, the best ways that the money could be used to help our school. Some of the renovations that were happening we didn't feel were quite necessary. But I think that you could go this route with things at the school, but also things that are going on with sports, with students who are interested in that, and with movies and TV shows. If you can relate to the students where they're at, you can get them to think and learn, and they don't even realize that that's what's going on. So those are some tips that you can learn from the textbook. And real quickly, like I said, I referenced Chapter 7, which is made reference to in Chapter 4. That's why I quoted from Chapter 7. It is referenced to in Chapter 4 on page 92, and it talks about how that chapter goes into greater detail with grading. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.